So my name is Anthony, and I work for Xeditor, which is a web-based XML authoring tool. If you were a contributor to one of the papers in this book, you might have used our tool online. We created a doc book version for it as part of the sponsorship of this conference. Before working for Xeditor, I spent about 5 years working for Oxford University Press, so it's nice to see some of my colleagues and former managers in the room. If you know Mark and Tom, you'll know why I left OUP. So at Xeditor, some of our current customers, we work in publishing, legal publishing, technical writing, and we're just starting to work more with some aerospace and defense and flight operations and that kind of thing. So we just completed a cool concept for Airbus, and we can add to this list BMJ, and also the American Chemical Society, which is using a version of JATS that we made. So I know that everyone in this room is super technical, so I'm going to show you what the end product looks like if you didn't get a chance to see it on our website. But I also don't want to only show this because there's sort of a technical appeal, I think, as well. Is that lined up? Okay, not quite. Let me slide it over a bit. Great, so this is Xeditor. It's a completely web-based XML authoring tool. As I mentioned, it can be configured for any data model. It's also completely client-side, so it ships with Java, but it can be run on any server. So we've done things in .NET, in PHP. You could do something in Node if you want. And the general idea is we wanted to make something that was completely agnostic to any back-end system or workflow. So whatever CMS you're using, we've done connections with Google Drive. It could be something as simple as that, SharePoint, or it could be something very robust like Ixiasoft, which is an enterprise content management system for the data model. How many people here work for a company with authors, editors, or subject matter experts who you would like to author in XML, but they don't because they don't want to learn it? Great, so you can come talk to me afterwards because this is why we made the tool. We love Oxygen, it's a power user tool, but the idea is if I want to send this to a professor at the University of Columbia to edit a journal document, they're not going to, install Oxygen on their desktop and set up an authoring framework. So with this, we can simply send out a link and they can log in. The resolution is, I'll show you a demo on my Mac later, but so anyway, a few quick things. Our general idea for this tool was, when I explained to my mother how to use email, I didn't start off with a definition of HTTP protocol, which is sort of how XML advocacy works for most people in here. It was kind of like, we had to do author training sessions on XML, which just doesn't work. Like, they don't want to do it. So our idea is that we can just type, and we're creating an XML, but just the way an author would think about it. We can insert a list, and we can just type. And the idea is we can make the return handling intuitive so that they don't have to think about what element they're actually inserting or whether or not it's valid. One of the other benefits of Xeditor and actually using everything sort of in a JavaScript web-based environment is that it's impossible to create invalid content, which would probably be a good thing, versus a post-authoring validation. This is a pre-authoring validation. So any element that's available in the toolbar will not be available if I'm not able to insert it where my cursor is. So if I'm within a paragraph, I can do all of my inline formatting. But if I'm in a heading with this particular data model, we're not allowed to put bold and italic in the heading, so it simply goes away as an option. Same thing anywhere in the editing window, I can do a right click and I can either search for an element or do insert, and it will only allow me to insert elements that are actually valid in the location. So from a different location, I get a different series of elements that pop up. If you would like to see something more complicated, we have a XML view, and in our newest version, we actually have an editing mode for the XML because our customers were just begging for the possibility of making invalid content. So against our instincts, we decided to give it to them. And also in our latest version, you can show the tags, so you can actually see what tags you have in the XML view, which is useful for some authors who just didn't want to shake the old habits. For people who are interested in the development aspect of it, because it's entirely in JavaScript, we made our architecture totally open, so you can go in and tinker with anything. We have a custom folder, so you can add or remove any of the toolbar buttons. You can create your own CSS. You can configure your own data models. If you can write code for it, you can do it within the system. So there's not really any limitations for what you can add as an extension or a plugin. So if you need to look up images from a certain repository that's separate from the CMS, you might be storing your XML, you can do that. If you want to send parameters based on different users, you can configure a totally different interface based on someone's role. As a quick final little example, because I thought it'd be fun to geek out just a little bit, if I send a parameter for editor mode, annotate, which could be sent from the CMS, depending on who's using the system, then basically there's no options, so you can't make any changes. So everything's turned off. So I can send that out to someone for a review, and the only thing they're allowed to do is create a comment, which is stored as a processing instruction in the XML, and you can do that with whatever you'd like when you go back into your CMS. Real quickly, the last thing I will show you is our structured track changes. And I want to turn that off so I can actually make changes. Up here in the top right corner, you just see a drop-down for users. This is just sort of a hack for the demo, but all this information would typically be coming from your CMS. So if I turn on track changes, any change that I actually make will be available here, and I can either accept or reject that change as I make them, and different users will be different colors. And we also have hints for what the actual change is, so in this case, content removed, or if I change formatting, then it might say something like format bold added. And we're keeping track of structural changes as well as simple content changes. If you'd like to know more about Xeditor, please see me at lunch. I have all the time in the world. Thank you very much.